My wife told me she was spending the night with another man and left without offering any explanation. I thought her affair was the ultimate betrayal, until I found out what she'd truly been planning all along. Some secrets don't just end marriages. They destroy everything you thought you knew about the person lying beside you for years. My name is Winston Blair. I'm 42 years old, and I believed I had my life under control. 3 thriving Papa Giovanni's restaurants around suburban Dallas, a wife of 6 years, and 3-year-old twins, Emma and Ethan, who were my whole world. My son from a previous relationship, Sebastian, was excelling at Texas A&M. Life felt steady. The first real warning came 3 months ago during Sebastian's spring break visit. Rachel had never been warm toward him, but this time something had changed. She was openly hostile. "Winston, we need to discuss Sebastian's college expenses," Rachel said one night after the twins had gone to bed. I looked up from my sales reports. "What about them? Everything's already covered." "That's the problem," Rachel shot back, folding her arms. "Do you realize how much money you're wasting on him? Money that should be saved for Emma and Ethan's future." Her accusation cut deep. "Rachel, I've been supporting Sebastian since before we ever met. This isn't anything new." "Well, maybe it's time for new priorities," she said coldly. "Your real family should come first." Real family. The words hit me like a punch. Sebastian was as real as it got. "Sebastian is my real family, Rachel. He's my firstborn." She rolled her eyes and walked away, muttering that I'd never change. That night was the first time I truly saw how distant she'd become. She spent the evening on her phone, smiling at messages that clearly weren't from me. Over the next few weeks, her absences grew more frequent. Rachel would vanish for hours, claiming she was shopping or working out, yet when I called, neither store nor gym had seen her. Anytime I asked questions about spending, she'd get defensive. The breaking point came last Tuesday. Sandra called to tell me Sebastian's tuition payment had been declined. When I checked our bank statements, my stomach dropped. 3 large withdrawals over the past month, nearly $15,000 gone. That money had been meant for Sebastian's education. That night, I confronted Rachel. "Oh, that," she said casually, barely glancing up from her laptop. "I moved it to savings. We should be thinking about the twins' future instead of wasting money on your son's overpriced college." The way she said "your son" made my hands tighten. "Rachel, that money was for Sebastian's tuition. I'm talking about it with you now," she replied calmly, almost mockingly. I stared at her, realizing I didn't recognize the woman in front of me. The warmth was gone, replaced by someone cold, calculating, and distant. That was a week ago. Tonight, everything I thought I knew about my marriage collapsed. Around 9:15, Rachel walked into the living room. I was sitting on the couch, half watching some crime show while reviewing inventory reports for my Garland store. Emma and Ethan had been asleep for an hour, and the house was wrapped in a comfortable quiet, the kind I used to love before everything started unraveling. Rachel stood in the doorway for a moment. I could feel her watching me. When I looked up, she was holding her phone and car keys, wearing that black dress she usually saved for special occasions. Her hair and makeup were perfect, like she was heading somewhere important. "Hey, babe," Rachel said, her voice too light, too practiced. "I'm going out tonight." I muted the TV and turned to face her. "It's Wednesday night. Where are you going?" She shifted from one foot to the other, a telltale sign she was about to lie. "Just meeting some friends. You know how it is." But I didn't know. Rachel's friends were mostly other daycare moms, and they didn't go out on weeknights. Something felt off. "Which friends?" I asked, keeping my tone steady even though my gut screamed warnings. Rachel's jaw tightened. "Does it matter? I'm just grabbing a few drinks. I'll probably crash at Lisa's since it'll be late." Lisa. I'd met her maybe twice in 6 years. She wasn't the kind of friend Rachel would randomly stay the night with. My grip on the remote tightened. "Rachel, what's really going on?" She hesitated, giving me a strange, unreadable look, as if she were calculating her next move. Then she said the words that would echo in my mind for hours afterward. "Look, Winston, I need to stay the night with someone tonight. I'll be back tomorrow afternoon." The room went completely still. Even the TV seemed to fade into background noise. I stared at my wife, certain I'd misheard, but the expression on her face told me I hadn't. "What did you just say?" My voice came out softer than I intended. Rachel didn't flinch. "No guilt. No shame. You heard me. I'm staying somewhere else tonight." "With who?" The question hung in the air between us. Does it really matter? She said, already moving toward the door as if the conversation were over. I'll see you tomorrow. Rachel, wait. I stood up, heart pounding. You can't just drop something like that and walk out. We need to talk. But she was already at the front door. Keys jingled in her hand. There's nothing to talk about, Winston. This is just how things are now. And then she was gone. The door shut behind her with a quiet click that echoed through the house like a final verdict. I stood there in the living room, staring at the door, waiting for her to come back, to tell me it was all some kind of cruel joke. But she didn't come back. I sank onto the couch, my mind spinning. Had my wife really just told me she was spending the night with another man? Had she actually walked out of our home, away from our 3-year-old twins, to be with someone else? The remote was still in my hand, but I couldn't focus on the TV. All I could think about was the calm, almost emotionless way she'd said it, like she'd rehearsed those words over and over. 20 minutes passed, then 30. I kept expecting to hear her car pull back into the driveway, to see her walk through the door with an explanation that made sense of everything. But the house stayed silent, and Rachel stayed gone. It took nearly an hour before I could even think clearly. I kept replaying her words, the way she delivered them like she was discussing dinner plans instead of detonating our marriage. Finally, I couldn't take the uncertainty anymore. I grabbed my phone and called my brother, Kevin. Winston, it's almost 11. Everything okay? No, Kevin. Everything's not okay. My voice came out rough. Rachel just left. She said she's staying the night with someone else. There was a long pause. Then Kevin exhaled slowly. Jesus, man. I'm sorry. You want me to come over? No. The twins are asleep. But Kevin, something's going on. This isn't just about tonight. She's been acting off for months. What are you planning to do? He asked. I looked around the empty room, at the framed family photos that suddenly felt like lies. I want to hire someone, a private investigator. I need to know how long this has been happening. You sure about that? Sometimes it's better not to know the details. I have to know, I said firmly. If she's been planning this, moving money, lying, I need proof. Especially with the twins involved. The next morning, I dropped Emma and Ethan at daycare and drove straight to the office of a private investigator Kevin had recommended. His name was Frank Patterson, a former cop who specialized in marital cases. Mr. Blair, Frank said, shaking my hand with a steady grip. Your brother gave me a quick rundown. Tell me what's going on. I explained everything. The missing money, the late nights, the evasive answers, and finally, last night's bombshell. Frank took notes quietly, nodding as I spoke. Here's what I can do, he said once I'd finished. I'll start with her financials, check for hidden accounts or unusual transactions. Then I'll follow her, see who she's meeting. Usually takes about a week to get the full picture. How much? I asked. $2,000 for the full job. But let me ask, what's your goal here, Mr. Blair? You looking to fix things, or to protect yourself if this goes south? I hesitated. Yesterday, I might have said save the marriage. But after the cold look in Rachel's eyes, my answer had changed. Protect myself, I said quietly. And my kids. Frank nodded. Smart move. I'll start today. That evening, Rachel came home around 6, acting like nothing had happened. She strolled through the door as if she owned the place, kissed Emma and Ethan hello, and started making dinner, like she hadn't just spent the night in another man's bed. How was your day? She asked, not meeting my eyes. Fine, I said slowly, watching her. Yours? Good. Lisa and I grabbed brunch, then did some shopping. Lisa again, the same friend she'd supposedly stayed with. I made a mental note to have Frank verify that story. Rachel, we need to talk about last night. She paused, knife in hand. What about it? You can't just announce you're staying with someone else and expect me to be okay with it. Rachel turned to face me, her expression unreadable. Winston, we're adults. Sometimes people need space. That's all this is, space. She was calling infidelity space. And what if I said I needed space too? I asked. For the first time, something flickered in her eyes. Irritation, maybe even anger. That's different. How? Because it just is. That night, after putting the twins to bed, I sat in my home office and started digging through every financial record I could find. If Frank was right about secret accounts, maybe I could spot something myself. What I found made my blood run cold. 3 hours of searching revealed a pattern I'd never noticed before. Small withdrawals from our joint account, always under $500, stretching back 6 months. On their own, they looked harmless. Grocery runs, gas, little shopping trips. All of it together added up to nearly $12,000. But that wasn't the worst part. The real blow came when I discovered a credit card statement I'd never seen before, issued solely in Rachel's name. The billing address listed was A.P.O. Box I didn't recognize. Designer clothing, upscale restaurants, hotel stays, all within the last 4 months. One charge in particular froze me. The Fairmont downtown, 3 nights ago. The same night Rachel said she was visiting her sister in Fort Worth. My hands trembled as I photographed every page. This wasn't impulsive. Rachel hadn't just made a rash decision. She'd been planning this for months. Cold, deliberate, methodical deceit. The next morning, after dropping the twins off, I called Frank Patterson. I found something, I said, skipping any greeting. Secret credit card, hotel stays, cash withdrawals. How quickly can you move on this? Give me the details, Frank replied. I could hear him typing as I read everything out. Mr. Blair, he said after a pause, that's solid work. With a trail like this, I can probably have everything tied together by tomorrow. Where are you now? Driving to my Plano location. Good. Meet me there in an hour. I've got something you'll want to see. An hour later, Frank arrived at my restaurant carrying a manila folder. We sat in my office while the lunch rush buzzed outside. Your wife's been busy, Frank said, opening the folder. Devin Walsh, 34, works in commercial real estate, drives a BMW, lives in a condo in Addison, and according to my sources, he's been seeing a married woman for 5 months. My stomach dropped. 5 months. This had been happening for 5 months while I'd been busting my back to keep our family afloat. There's more, Frank went on. That Fairmont charge you found, I checked with hotel security. She was there with Walsh. They're regular guests. I stared at the photos Frank slid across the desk. Rachel, walking into the hotel beside a tall, well-dressed man. The timestamp read last Tuesday, the day she said she was out shopping. What do you want to do next? Frank asked. Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Rachel, working late tonight. Don't wait up. I looked at Frank, the decision forming in my mind even before I spoke. Follow her tonight. I want to know exactly where she goes, who she's with, everything. And Frank, I want it all documented. You got it, he said. But once we start down this path, there's no turning back. You ready for what we might find? I thought about Emma and Ethan. About the tuition money Rachel stole from Sebastian. About months of lies and betrayal. I'm ready. Frank's call came at 7:30 the next morning. I was making breakfast for the twins when my phone buzzed. Winston, you need to see this, he said without preamble. Can you meet me at my office in an hour? What did you find? Pictures, financial records, and something that's going to make your blood boil. After dropping off Emma and Ethan, I drove to Frank's office with my stomach in knots. He was waiting with a thick folder spread open on his desk. Sit down, he said quietly. This one's going to hurt. The photos hit me first. Rachel and Walsh walking into hotels, dining at places I'd never even heard of, shopping in stores I could never afford. All time stamped over the past 5 months. But here's the real kicker, Frank said, sliding a sheet across the desk. She opened a joint checking account with him 3 months ago. They've been depositing money into it, including transfers from your business accounts. My hands shook as I scanned the statements. $1,500 here, $2,000 there, all funneled from our joint funds into that shared account. There's more, Frank continued grimly. Walsh isn't some random guy. He's married, wife and 2 kids. He's been playing both sides, and from what I can tell, it's not his first time. How do you know? I asked. Because his ex-wife hired me 2 years ago during their divorce. Same playbook, hidden accounts, hotel meetings, emotional manipulation. He's a predator, Winston. Targets married women for money. I looked at the pile of evidence spread before me, a cold heaviness sinking into my chest. This wasn't just infidelity. It was theft, manipulation, fraud. Rachel wasn't just betraying me. She was bleeding our family dry to fund her fantasy with a con artist. What do I do now? I asked. Confront her tonight, Frank said firmly. But record everything on your phone. If this ends up in court, we'll need her to admit to the financial misconduct. That evening, I waited until the twins were asleep, then walked into the living room to face Rachel. She was sitting at her laptop, probably planning her next rendezvous. We need to talk, I said, taking a seat across from her. She looked up, wearing that practiced look of innocence. About what? I placed one of Frank's photographs on the coffee table between us. About this. Rachel went pale. For the first time in months, I saw real emotion. Panic, fear, and perhaps a trace of shame. Winston, I can explain. Explain what? How you've been taking money from our family to pay for hotel stays with your boyfriend. How you opened a secret bank account with him. And how about explaining Devin Walsh's wife and kids? Rachel's mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. How did you, private investigator? She stammered. Amazing what you discover when you actually look. She stood abruptly and started pacing to the window. You had me followed. That's sick, Winston. Paranoid and controlling. I almost laughed at her audacity. Controlling? Rachel, you stole $15,000 from our accounts. You've been lying to me for 5 months to fund an affair with a married con man. He's not a con man, she snapped, then instantly realized her mistake. So you admit it. You admit you've been having an affair and stealing money to support it. Rachel turned to face me, and for the first time, I saw her true self. Not the loving wife and mother, not the woman I married, but someone cold and calculating who had been using me all along. Yes, she said defiantly, and I don't regret it. Her admission hung between us like a live wire. I had expected denials, excuses, maybe even tears, not this icy defiance. You don't regret it? I repeated, checking my phone still recorded. No, she said, arms crossed. Want to know why? For the first time in years, I feel alive. Devin makes me feel like a woman, not just a mother, a wife, or a caretaker. What about Emma and Ethan? What about the family we built together? Rachel laughed bitterly. What family, Winston? You work 16 hours a day at those pizza shops. When you're home, it's either phone calls with suppliers or obsessing over Sebastian and his college bills. Sebastian is my son. Sebastian is a financial drain, Rachel shot back. Do you know how much you've wasted on him over the years? Money that should have gone to our children, to our future? Her contempt for Sebastian made my hands clench. That boy is not wasted. He's my firstborn, and I'll support him until the day I die. Well, maybe you won't have to for much longer, Rachel said with a smirk that sent a chill through me. What do you mean? She pulled her purse and retrieved a manila envelope. Divorce papers. I'm filing tomorrow. And Winston, I'm going for half of everything. The restaurants, the house, custody of the twins. Devin's lawyer says I have an excellent case. I stared at the envelope. Pieces clicked together. This had all been planned. The affair, the theft, even this confrontation. You've been setting me up, I said. I've been protecting myself, she replied coldly. You're so focused on Sebastian and your businesses that you forgot your real family. I found someone who puts me first by stealing from you, lying for months, and securing my future. Devin and I have been planning this for weeks. We're moving to Colorado together, and the twins are coming with us. The thought of my children being taken across state lines by her and that man filled me with rage unlike anything I'd felt before. Over my dead body, I said quietly. Rachel's eyes narrowed. Try to stop me, Winston. I have proof of your neglect, your obsession with work, your favoritism toward Sebastian. No judge will give custody to a man who cares more about his pizza shops than his own children. I stood slowly, my mind clear for the first time in months. Rachel, you made one critical mistake in all this planning. What's that? You assumed I was stupid, that you could steal from me, lie to me, and manipulate me without consequences. But I've been documenting everything this past week. Her confident expression faltered. What are you talking about? The private investigator. The financial records. The photographs of you and Devin. The proof you opened fraudulent accounts with marital funds. And yes, this conversation is being recorded on my phone. Rachel went pale. You can't use that in court. It's illegal to record someone without consent. Actually, in Texas, only one party needs to consent, and I consented. For the first time since this nightmare began, I saw real fear in her eyes. Genuine fear. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're packing your things tonight and leaving. You're not taking the twins anywhere. And if you try to claim half my business, I'll make sure every detail of your affair and financial fraud becomes public record. Rachel stared at me, realizing her carefully planned escape had just collapsed. You bastard, she whispered. No, Rachel. I'm just a man who finally stopped being fooled. The next morning, I was already at my lawyer's office when the doors opened. Mark Thompson had handled my business incorporation years ago, but now I needed his family law expertise more than ever. Winston, based on what you've told me, your wife made a critical mistake, Mark said, reviewing Frank's evidence. She committed financial fraud during the marriage. That changes everything. How so? Texas law doesn't look kindly on spouses who steal marital assets to fund affairs. The court can award you more than half the marital property as compensation. Plus, her actions work against her in custody proceedings. Mark spread the documents across the desk, bank statements, photographs, the recorded conversation. She admitted to the affair, the theft, and planning to move your children out of state. Any competent judge will recognize this as parental alienation. What's my next step? I asked. We file today. Emergency custody orders to prevent her from taking Emma and Ethan anywhere. Temporary restraining orders on all accounts. And Winston, we'll request spousal support from her. From her? How? She's been funding a lavish lifestyle with your money. She has a job, assets, and a proven pattern of financial irresponsibility. The court can order her to pay you support, especially if you gain primary custody. 2 hours later, a sheriff's deputy delivered papers for Rachel. I watched from the kitchen as she signed, her face going pale as she read. Winston, she stormed in, papers in hand. What is this? Legal protection for me and the children. You froze our accounts. How am I supposed to buy groceries? I met her gaze calmly. The same way you've been buying hotel rooms and fancy dinners with your secret credit cards. Rachel opened and closed her mouth. I need money for Emma and Ethan. They're with me now. The emergency custody order gives me temporary full custody until the hearing. You can't do this. I already did. And there's something else. Devin Walsh's wife filed for divorce yesterday. Someone sent her copies of Frank's photos. She's naming you as the correspondent. Rachel sank into a chair as reality hit. Her perfect plan was unraveling. This isn't over, she said weakly. You're right. It's not. But you're not holding the cards anymore. That evening, after putting Emma and Ethan to bed, I called Sebastian. Dad, how are things? Better than expected, son. Rachel won't be interfering with your college expenses anymore. What happened? Let's just say the truth came out. Your tuition is secure, and I'm proud of you for sticking it out. Thanks, Dad. I love you. Love you too, Sebastian. For the first time in months, I felt like I was protecting my family instead of watching it fall apart. The divorce hearing was scheduled for 3 weeks later, but Rachel's lawyer called 2 days beforehand requesting a settlement conference. She wanted to negotiate. Mark explained that her attorney knew they couldn't win with the evidence we had. We met in a sterile conference room downtown. Rachel sat across from me with her lawyer, looking nothing like the confident woman who had walked out on our family. Devin Walsh was nowhere in sight. My client is prepared to accept a reasonable settlement, her attorney began. Mark slid a document across the table. These are our terms. Your client gets 20% of marital assets, no custody of the minor children, and pays Mr. Blair monthly support for 2 years. Rachel's face flushed. 20%? That's ridiculous. Your client stole marital funds for an affair, Mark replied coolly. She's lucky we're not seeking criminal fraud charges. What about Emma and Ethan? Rachel asked. They're my children too. I spoke firmly. Supervised visitation every other weekend. And only after completing parenting classes and counseling. Rachel looked to her lawyer desperately. He shrugged. Mrs. Blair, given the evidence, this is generous. A trial could cost you everything. After an hour of negotiation, Rachel signed the agreement. As we left the conference room, she grabbed my arm. Winston, I'm sorry. I never meant for things to go this far. I looked at her, really looked, and felt nothing but pity. Rachel, you made your choices. Now you live with the consequences. 3 months later, life had settled into a new rhythm. Emma and Ethan were thriving with the consistency of a stable routine. Sebastian had started his sophomore year with full financial support. My restaurants were performing better than ever. I worked more efficiently when I wasn't weighed down by a failing marriage. Rachel's affair with Devin ended predictably. Once his wife claimed half of his assets in their divorce, he lost interest in sustaining her extravagant lifestyle. Rachel was now working retail and living in a modest studio, far from the glamorous life she had imagined. The support I received from unexpected places was uplifting. Sandra, Sebastian's mother, reached out during the divorce proceedings. Winston, I know we had our differences, but I respect how you handled this. You protected your children and your family. That takes real strength. Even some of Rachel's friends contacted me privately, apologizing for staying silent. We should have spoken up, Claire admitted. Rachel convinced them I was just a workaholic who no longer cared about her. One evening, I was reviewing expansion plans for a fourth restaurant when Emma ran in with a drawing. Daddy, look. It's our family. The picture showed me, Emma, Ethan, and Sebastian smiling in front of our house. No Rachel in sight. It's perfect, sweetheart, I said, hanging it on the wall next to my business awards. Sometimes the family you choose is stronger than the one you inherit. A year later, I stood in the kitchen of our new house, watching Emma and Ethan help Sebastian make pancakes. We'd moved 6 months prior. The old house held too many memories of betrayal. This place feels like a fresh start. Dad, can I flip this one? Ethan asked, gripping the spatula seriously. Go for it, buddy, Sebastian guided him. Just like I showed you. Sebastian had naturally stepped into the role of older brother. After the divorce, he transferred to UT Dallas to stay close. His bond with Emma and Ethan flourished without Rachel's interference. Winston, the kids are ready for the zoo, Sandra called from the living room. We'd been dating for 8 months. Reconnecting with Sandra felt strange at first, but we had both grown. She shared my priorities and put our children first. Coming, I replied. Then to Sebastian, you sure you don't want to join? Thanks, but I've got a study group. You two deserve some time together. Sebastian had matured immensely. Knowing his education was secure and watching me defend our family gave him a confidence I'd never seen. My phone buzzed, a text from Frank Patterson, Devin Walsh arrested for fraud. Thought you'd want to know. I showed it to Sebastian. He whistled low. Guess Rachel really knows how to pick them. Rachel struggled over the past year. Without financial support from me or Devin, she faced reality. Visits with Emma and Ethan were supervised and awkward, but the children adapted better than expected. Stability breeds resilience. Dad, Emma tugged my shirt. Are you and Miss Sandra getting married? I looked at her hopeful face. Maybe someday, sweetheart. Would you like that? Yes. Sebastian laughed, ruffling Emma's hair. I'm already your brother. Silly. I don't need a wedding for that, Emma said. As we headed to the zoo, I reflected on how dramatically life had changed. My pizza franchises were thriving. A fourth location was opening, with expansion ideas even into Oklahoma. Most importantly, I had learned to trust my instincts and protect what truly mattered. Sometimes you need to lose everything to discover what's valuable. 2 years after the divorce, my phone rang, an unknown number. Winston Blair speaking. Winston, it's Rachel. I hadn't heard her voice in 6 months. What do you need? I wanted to apologize. Really apologize. Not because my lawyer said so. I leaned back, curious. Go ahead. I've been in therapy for a year, working through issues of self-worth and destructive choices. I realize how badly I hurt you and the children, and Sebastian, especially him. I was jealous. That was wrong. Her voice carried genuine regret. Where is this coming from? Devin was convicted last week. Fraud, embezzlement, tax evasion. He's going to prison for 5 years. Some of his other victims might sue me as an accomplice. There was more in her tone, real remorse. I'm sorry to hear that, I said sincerely. Winston, I know I have no right to ask, but would you consider letting me spend more time with Em and Ethan? Not unsupervised, not overnight, just gradually rebuilding. I thought of my thriving children. I'll discuss it with my lawyer. Any increased contact depends on therapy and genuine change. I understand. And congratulations on your engagement to Sandra. Sebastian said she's good for you. After hanging up, I reflected. People can change if they commit to the hard work. Maybe Rachel was finally ready. That evening, I came home to find Sandra helping Emma with an art project while Ethan and Sebastian played video games. This was my family now, not the one I'd originally planned, but the one built from honesty and respect. How was your day? Sandra asked, kissing my cheek. Interesting, I replied. That night, tucking Emma and Ethan in, Emma asked, Daddy, will you tell us the story of how you and Sebastian saved our family? It had become their favorite bedtime story, a tale of courage, standing up for what's right, and how families can be rebuilt stronger than before. I kissed them both goodnight. Daddy, Ethan murmured, I'm glad you're our hero. Walking past Sebastian's room, I stopped by his desk. Thanks for being such a great big brother, I said. Thanks for showing me what it means to be a strong man, he replied. Sometimes, the greatest victory isn't defeating your enemies. It's creating something better from the pieces they leave behind.